Well, let's take you live to the Rafah border crossing. It's at the border with Gaza and Egypt. You can see the live pictures there. There's been some confusion about what's happening there. Let's bring you up to date with what we know, and that is that the Reuters news agency has been reporting sources in Egypt saying that a ceasefire has been agreed in southern Gaza. The cessation of hostilities between Israel and Hamas was to have begun at 6 in the morning GMT, and the sources said that the ceasefire would last for several hours. They also said that the Rafah crossing was to open at the same time. That's to let much needed aid into Gaza, as we're hearing of a worsening humanitarian situation there, and aid agencies and NGOs are saying they are desperate for that border to be opened so that they can send supplies across the border. But actually, our sources on the ground are saying that the border crossing has not opened, and you can see the pictures there. They speak for themselves. The gates appear to be firmly shut there. And we've also heard that Hamas say it has no knowledge of any truce, and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office has also said that there is currently no truce nor humanitarian aid in Gaza in exchange for getting foreigners out. So quite a lot of confusion, but as you can see there, the pictures speak for themselves, showing that the Rafah border crossing remains shut despite reports saying from the Reuters news agency that it was going to be opened for several hours today. Well, as we've been reporting, Israel's army is massing in the south of Israel ahead of the expected offensive, although it's not clear at this point what form it will take. Well, President Biden's warning against a longer-term occupation. Well, our chief international correspondent, Lise Doucette, is in southern Israel for us. Good morning to you, Lise. Lise, let's start with some of the confusion around the Rafah border crossing. Is there any more you can add to that story?
I think we have clarity now, Regini. I think that statement from the Israeli Prime Minister's office, and that is the statement which matters at this moment, was categorical. There is no truce. There is no agreement that people can go out and aid can get in. So that's what it is for the moment. And you've been showing the images. That is also confirming that Rafah crossing, the only crossing out of Gaza right now for people desperate to escape, to get out, and for that aid piling up the border to get in. But we understand from our BBC sources in Cairo that there is an agreement in principle, but there are still some very important and very tricky issues to sort. First of all, Egypt wants to have guarantees that its staff operating that crossing will be safe, that there's no danger of an errant missile, of an attack of the kind that we saw earlier in this war. Secondly, the Israelis want to have a mechanism of a way to inspect all of the lorries coming into Gaza. They want to ensure that there are no weapons hidden amongst the food and the fuel and the medical supplies, which are so desperately needed in Gaza. There was one hopeful account that perhaps these issues could be sorted by Tuesday, but given the complexity of this moment, the intensity of this moment, and so many pieces to be put in place, I think we just have to watch it hour by hour. But Regina, you can imagine the disappointment, the anger among those thousands who have spent days without eating, sleeping, washing properly. They heard the report that it could be open, that they would finally escape. And these are families with children who are traumatized by what's been happening, people living through the worst nightmare of their lives. And now they've been told to wait again. And of course, not really sure when that window to the world will open.
And Lise, we've just had another source, a Hamas official, saying that there's no truth to the information about the opening of the Rafah border crossing or the temporary ceasefire. So as you say, we've had both Israel and Hamas pouring scorn on those reports that it has reopened for now. But you talk about the people massed at the border, but of course there are more than 2 million people in Gaza who are also in a worsening situation.
Yes, we remember a few days ago we reported Israel's evacuation order saying that the more than 1 million living in the north of the Gaza Strip, where Israel wants to focus in these early phases, its military operations, were told to leave immediately within 24 hours to go south. And after the shock of people being told to leave who had so few resources to leave, were scared to leave under the non-stop bombardment, within hours, thousands started moving. And in recent days, many Gazans have moved south. And that has meant that the south, as we've been hearing from our reporter, Rishti Abu Alouf, the south is now at breaking point. Food, fuel, water, they're all running out as well. And everyone is on edge there. So, and there are hospitals in the north who have simply said, we simply cannot up sticks and go. There are babies on incubators. There's severely injured in hospital beds. The WHO issued the bluntest statement I've ever heard from the WHO, saying this evacuation order is a death sentence, and that's not an exaggeration.
Lise, just bring us up to date with what's happening where you are in southern Israel. Of course, everybody is anticipating this Israeli offensive. What's your feeling about when that might come?
We just don't know, Regina. Of course, this is a military secret. They're not going to tell us. It's clear both from the statements of Israeli military and political leaders. It's clear from what we've been seeing here on the ground in southern Israel. You may see behind me some of the armor and artillery, but there's masses of armor and material that's been put in place along the border. Thousands and thousands of reservists. Prime Minister Netanyahu visited them, another signal that the ground incursion, and not just by ground, sea and air as well, could be imminent, asking them whether they're ready. We heard yesterday that one of the border towns, which at one point is less than a mile from Gaza, Sderot, where we've spent many days over the past 10 days, that whole community has now been evacuated. People all along this southern belt have been told to leave. They've also been told to leave the border with Lebanon in the north. All of these signs are trying to get people away from the border, all the while they put the military, all of the military pieces into place.
Lise Doucette, our Chief International Correspondent, for the moment, thank you very much.